He went undercover at his own restaurant, but what he overheard behind him made his blood run cold. The smell of grilled chicken and toasted brioche hung in the air, the kind of scent that made you hungry even if you'd just eaten. Derek Lawson stood in line, hands tucked into his hoodie pocket, waiting his turn at the Harvest Table Grill in Mesa, Arizona, a location he technically owned, though nobody here knew that. It was a regular Tuesday afternoon. The lunch crowd had thinned, and the workers behind the counter looked busy but tired, moving in that autopilot rhythm you only see during long shifts. Derek glanced around quietly, his eyes sharp but calm. He liked coming to his restaurants without warning. It reminded him what real customers experienced, the good and the bad. The cashier called out, "Next!" and Derek stepped forward, about to order his usual grilled salmon bowl when he heard two voices behind him. Teenagers, maybe 17 or 18. Their tone was casual, but one of them spoke just loud enough to snag his attention. "Yo, I swear, man, if the boss finds out what we've been doing in the back, we're done." The other boy chuckled nervously. "Chill, bro. Nobody's gonna find out. I told you, just keep your mouth shut." Derek's hand froze midair, still holding his wallet. His mind started racing. What we've been doing in the back. He tried to keep a straight face, pretending to look at the menu board. The cashier's voice sounded distant now. "Sir? What can I get for you?" He cleared his throat. Yeah, one grilled salmon bowl, no dressing, extra avocado." As he paid, his ears strained to catch more of the boys' conversation. One of them, taller, wearing a gray hoodie, said, "Dude, I'm serious. I think one of the managers suspects something. We should stop before this gets bad." The shorter one laughed again, but it wasn't a confident laugh. "Man, relax. You think they care what happens in the back? Nobody checks that freezer anyway." Freezer. Derek's stomach tightened. He glanced toward the kitchen door where employees moved in and out with trays and boxes. A freezer could mean a lot of things. Food mishandling, theft, worse. The cashier handed him his receipt. "We'll bring that right out, sir." "Thanks," Derek said, but his voice was barely a whisper. He walked over to an empty booth near the window, sitting where he could still see the counter. He didn't even look at his phone. His eyes stayed locked on those two boys. They were young, barely men, wearing the restaurant's logo caps. One of them was new. Derek remembered approving the last round of hires for this branch just a month ago. He felt a pinch of disappointment tighten in his chest. He'd built Harvest Table Grill from scratch, back when he was barely 30. His goal was simple: good food, fair prices, and a decent place for people to work. He treated his employees like family, or at least that's what he believed. But if there was something going on behind those kitchen doors, something that could hurt his brand or the people who trusted him, he needed to know. He leaned back, watching the boys grab their drinks and head toward the kitchen. His heart was calm, but his mind was not. The next move had to be careful. He couldn't just storm in. He needed to see, to listen, to understand what was really happening. But as the kitchen door swung open behind them, Derek noticed something. Something small but strange, that made him realize this wasn't going to be just another secret inspection. The kitchen door had swung just wide enough for Derek to catch a glimpse of something he couldn't ignore. One of the boys, the taller one, quickly slipping a small plastic bag from his jacket pocket into a cardboard box marked "Produce Use First." It was fast, almost instinctive, like he'd done it before. The other boy looked around nervously, then followed him in. Derek's heartbeat thudded once, heavy and deliberate. He wasn't sure what he saw, but it wasn't right. He glanced at the wall clock, 1:42 p.m., and quietly noted it in his phone. Old habits. He'd learned years ago that details mattered, even small ones. He didn't move right away. He sat there, sipping his water, letting the scene play out in his head. Could they be stealing food? Stashing something? He didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the word freezer echoed again in his mind like an alarm he couldn't silence. 5 years ago, Derek had been through something similar. An employee caught pocketing cash from the register. That incident had shaken him more than he'd admitted, not because of the money, but because he'd trusted the guy. That's what made this harder. You build a team, a culture, a place people can be proud of, and one small crack can break everything. He stood up and walked casually to the counter. The shift manager, a young woman named Tara Jennings, was punching numbers into the POS screen. Derek recognized her from his employee reports. Loyal, consistent, promoted within the last year. "Excuse me," he said politely, lowering his voice. "You guys hiring right now?" Tara smiled, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "Always, especially for weekends. You looking for part-time?" "Something like that," Derek said, playing along. "Just moved back to town. Figured I'd pick up some work while I get settled." She nodded. "Cool. You can fill out an application online or just drop one off here. Manager usually checks them on Mondays." "Appreciate it," he said. "By the way, that kid with the gray hoodie, he's new, right?" Tara glanced toward the kitchen. "Yeah, that's Ryan Soto. Started 2 weeks ago. His friend's name's Jaden Bell. They go to Desert Ridge High, same shift after class. Why, is something wrong?" Derek smiled faintly. "Nah, just curious. Reminds me of my nephew. Always goofing around." Tara laughed. "Yeah, they're good kids, just need some discipline. Teenagers, you know?" "Yeah," Derek murmured. "I know." He thanked her and walked back to his seat. His salmon bowl had arrived, warm and perfectly plated, but the food might as well have been cardboard. He pushed it around with his fork, eyes drifting to the kitchen door again. He thought about his late father, a man who worked 30 years in a steel plant, never missing a shift. Derek had built Harvest Table to honor that kind of work ethic, the kind that believed in doing right, even when nobody was watching. But lately, success had changed things. More stores meant more people. More people meant more risk. He wasn't angry, at least not yet. He was disappointed, and curiosity was starting to morph into something heavier. He waited until Tara got busy again before slipping quietly out of the dining area. Instead of heading toward the exit, he made his way down a short hallway that led to the restrooms, and beyond that, the back storage area. He knew this layout well. He'd designed it himself. A staff-only sign hung crookedly on the door. He glanced around once, then pushed it open. The hum of the walk-in freezer hit him instantly, sharp and cold. He stepped in just enough to hear voices, Ryan and Jaden, laughing quietly. "Yo, hurry up before someone comes in," Jaden whispered. "I'm trying, man," Ryan said. "Just chill. It's gotta stay cold or it'll go bad." "Bad?" Derek thought, straining to listen. "What's going bad?" He took one slow step closer, careful not to make a sound. The smell of frozen produce and cleaning supplies mixed in the air. Then he heard a noise, a small clink, like glass hitting metal. Ryan's voice came again, lower this time. "All right, last one. After this, we're done." But Derek didn't have to wonder anymore what they were hiding. The moment he saw what was inside that box, every assumption he had about his employees and about his restaurant was about to change. Derek's breath caught for half a second as he leaned just enough to see through the small gap between the stacked boxes. Inside the open produce box, wedged between bags of lettuce and tomatoes, were several tiny glass vials, each one filled with a pale yellow liquid. Ryan held one in his hand, shaking it slightly before placing it into a plastic bag. Jaden whispered, "You sure it's fine keeping them here?" Ryan shrugged. "Dude, it's the safest spot. No one checks the produce deliveries till closing. You want to get caught carrying this stuff around?" Jaden frowned. "I just don't get why you need all this anyway." Ryan didn't answer right away. He sealed the bag and tucked it back into the box. "It's not for me, all right? Just helping someone out. And it's not what you think." Derek's pulse thudded. He didn't want to jump to conclusions, but vials hidden in a freezer? Helping someone out wasn't an excuse that fit. His first thought went to drugs, then steroids, maybe even stolen medical supplies. Either way, this wasn't small. He backed up silently and turned to leave, but his shoe squeaked slightly against the tile. Both boys spun around. Ryan's eyes widened. "Hey, who's that?" For a split second, Derek froze in place. Then he did what any smart undercover boss would do. He turned the situation into a test. He stepped forward casually, pretending to look lost. "Sorry, man. I was looking for the bathroom. Door must have been the wrong one." Jaden looked suspicious. "You don't work here, right?" "Nah," Derek said easily, hands in his hoodie pocket. "Just a customer." Door was open, thought I'd check. Ryan forced a smile, hiding the panic in his eyes. "Yeah, bro, that's staff only back here. You can't be in here, got it," Derek said, nodding. "My bad. Didn't mean to interrupt whatever y'all were doing." He let his eyes flick briefly toward the box. just enough to make them nervous. Smells fresh, though. You guys keep all the produce in there? Yeah, Ryan said quickly. All the produce. Jaden elbowed him subtly. Come on, let's finish and get back out. Derek gave them one last polite nod before leaving the storage area, his expression unreadable. But inside, his mind was already working overtime. He'd seen enough to know something serious was happening, but not enough to understand why. He returned to the dining area, grabbed his untouched food, and sat near the window again, pretending to scroll his phone while watching the kitchen door. A few minutes later, Ryan and Jaden walked out, trying to act normal. But Derek caught the look on Ryan's face, guilt mixed with fear. He knew that look. He'd seen it years ago when one of his line cooks got caught stealing ingredients to sell at a farmer's market. That time, Derek had given the man a second chance, believing people could change. It was one of his proudest moments, until that same employee was caught again a month later. Derek didn't want to make that mistake twice, but he also knew there were always two sides to a story. He waited until the boys went back to taking orders at the register before approaching them casually. Hey, he said to. She said with a friendly smile. You the new guys? Jaden straightened. Yeah, just started a few weeks ago. That's cool, Derek said, setting down his tray. How's the job treating you? Ryan hesitated. It's fine. Busy Derek chuckled softly. Yeah, looks like it. You ever get used to the pace, or is it chaos every day? Ryan gave a nervous laugh, but it didn't reach his eyes. Depends on the manager. Tara, the shift lead, looked over from the register. You guys okay over there? All good, Derek said smoothly. Just chatting. I used to work food service too. Then you know how crazy it gets, Jaden said, relaxing a bit. Oh, I do, Derek replied, watching him closely. And I also know when people are trying to juggle more than just work. Jaden's smile faltered. What do you mean? Nothing bad, Derek said casually. Just, you two look like you've got a lot on your minds. Ryan swallowed hard. Nah, man. We're just trying to make it through the shift. Fair enough, Derek said with a nod. Well, if you ever need to talk about something, sometimes it helps to just be honest with the right person. He left it at that, picking up his tray and walking toward the exit. But as soon as he stepped outside, he didn't head to his car. Instead, he took out his phone, opened the employee directory, and made a note to call the store's district manager later that evening. Something wasn't right, and he needed to handle this carefully. He wasn't sure if those boys were the villains or the victims. But when Derek decided to dig deeper after hours, what he found behind the restaurant's back door made him realize this problem reached far beyond two scared teenagers. By the time evening rolled around, the sun had dipped low over Mesa, painting the storefronts along the strip mall in soft orange light. The dinner rush was beginning, and Harvest Table Grill had that steady rhythm of orders being shouted, trays sliding, and laughter from tables. Derek parked his black Ford Fusion 2 lots down, watching from a distance. He'd changed into a delivery shirt and cap he'd picked up from a friend who managed one of the Phoenix locations. The plan wasn't glamorous. It was practical. He wanted to blend in, not be recognized. He waited until about 7:15, when the inside had thinned out again, then grabbed a clipboard and a small box to look official. He walked in through the side door where suppliers usually entered, nodding at the dishwasher who was stepping out to take a smoke break. Yo, you got tonight's order? The dishwasher asked. Yeah, Derek said, keeping his tone relaxed. Just dropping some stock from Central. The guy shrugged and went outside. Perfect. Derek slipped deeper into the back area. The smell hit him first. Not food, but something chemical, sharp. Not bleach exactly, but close. He looked around. The freezer door was cracked open, light spilling onto the floor. He pulled it wider and stepped in. There it was again, the same produce box he'd seen earlier. But now, half the contents were gone. He crouched and opened another identical box beside it. Inside were empty trays, crumpled gloves, and small broken glass pieces stuck to a sticky amber-colored residue. He carefully pulled one out using a napkin. A vial label was still half intact, printed on it in faint blue letters. Insulin. Prescription only. Derek's chest tightened. He'd seen those labels before. His late mother had been diabetic. He remembered the way she used to ration her insulin when she couldn't afford refills. It nearly killed her one winter before his business took off. So what was insulin doing hidden in his restaurant freezer? He heard footsteps behind him. Hey, what are you doing in here? Tara's voice was firm. He turned, heart pounding, but his expression stayed calm. I'm from Central Supply, he lied. Just checking on inventory records. She crossed her arms. There's no Central Supply visit scheduled tonight. I checked the board myself. Derek sighed quietly. The lie wasn't going to hold long. You're right, he said finally. I'm not from Supply. Tara's eyes narrowed. Then who are you? He reached up and took off the cap. Derek Lawson, owner. The silence between them was thick. Her mouth fell slightly open. Wait, the Derek Lawson? As in... Yeah, he said, cutting her off gently. The one who signs your paychecks. She blinked hard, looking around the freezer as if seeing it for the first time. Sir, I had no idea you were coming. What's going on? What are you doing back here? I was about to ask you the same thing, he said quietly, showing her the vial. Do you know what this is? Her eyes widened. Oh my God. Where did that come from? You tell me. Tara looked panicked now, shaking her head. I swear I didn't know anything about this. The boys, Ryan and Jaden, they handled the closing deliveries for the back. They said some of the produce comes with temperature-controlled samples. I thought it was some vendor program. Derek frowned. Samples? For insulin? She looked sick. I didn't look too close. They seemed honest. I'm sorry, sir. I should have checked. Derek exhaled slowly, setting the vial on a shelf. You might have just saved this place by being honest with me now. Just then, the back door creaked open again, and Ryan stepped in, backpack slung over his shoulder, frozen mid-step when he saw both of them there. His face went pale. Mr. Lawson? Tara turned toward him, stunned. You knew? Ryan's mouth opened, but no sound came out. His hand tightened on the strap of his backpack. Don't lie to me, Derek said calmly. Tell me what's going on. Ryan's eyes darted between them. Then he let the bag slide off his shoulder and onto the floor. It's not what you think, he said quietly. Please, just listen. But before Derek could ask another question, the back door slammed again, and this time Jaden ran in, out of breath, shouting something that made Derek's blood run cold. Ryan! The cops are outside. Jaden's voice cracked as he stumbled in, gasping for air. His eyes went wide when he saw Derek standing there without the delivery cap. Wait, oh no, he's the boss? Ryan didn't answer. His shoulders slumped. Yeah, he muttered. Tara looked from one to the other, trying to piece things together. Why are the police here? Jaden ran a hand through his hair. I don't know. Some guy called it in. Said we had drugs back here. They're parked right out front. Derek stepped closer. His tone was calm, but there was authority in it now. Nobody's leaving until you tell me what's in those vials. Ryan's eyes welled with tears he tried to hide. It's not drugs, he said quietly. It's insulin. We know that, Derek said, folding his arms. What I don't know is why you're storing prescription insulin in my restaurant freezer. Ryan took a deep breath, his voice shaking. Because my little sister needs it. She's 8. My mom lost her insurance after her job cut hours. The pharmacy won't give refills without full payment. I've been getting samples from a friend whose aunt works in a clinic, but they have to stay cold, so I keep them here until I can bring them home. The room fell silent. Even the hum of the freezer felt distant. Jaden rubbed the back of his neck. He didn't want to tell anyone. I just helped him because I didn't want his sister to get sick again. She was in the hospital last month. Tara's hand covered her mouth. Oh my God. Derek stared at the boy, his jaw tight. You risked your job, your future, and the reputation of this place for that? Ryan's voice cracked. You think I wanted to? I tried everything. Charities, discount programs, even GoFundMe, but it's never enough. My mom's already behind on rent. I couldn't watch my sister go through that again. Derek didn't speak right away. He looked down at the small vial in his hand, thinking about his mother, how she used to water down her doses, how close he'd come to losing her before his business took off. He swallowed hard. Tara finally broke the silence. Sir, the officers are coming around back. What should we do? Derek took a deep breath. Let them in. But I'll handle it. Moments later, 2 uniformed officers entered. One of them, Officer Delgado, a middle-aged man with kind but wary eyes, looked at the scene carefully. We got an anonymous tip about controlled substances being stored here. What's going on? Derek stepped forward. My name's Derek Lawson. I own this restaurant. I can explain. The officer nodded. Go ahead. Derek held up the vial. It's insulin. Belongs to one of my employees. There's been a misunderstanding, but it's not criminal activity. Delgado studied him. We'll still need to take a report, sir. These are regulated medications. Of course, Derek said, but no one here is distributing anything. This boy was just trying to keep his sister alive. Delgado's eyes softened. He turned to Ryan. That true? Ryan nodded quickly. Yes, sir. Delgado sighed, then spoke gently. Son, I get it. My own brother used to ration insulin before he got on a program, but you can't keep it like this. It's dangerous and illegal without documentation. You could have been arrested. I know, Ryan said quietly. I'm sorry. Derek looked at the officer. Can I handle the disciplinary side here? I'll make sure he gets the help he needs. Delgado paused, then nodded. If you're taking responsibility, we can file it as a warning and move on. But don't let this happen again. I won't, Derek said firmly. The officers left, and the silence that followed was heavy, but calmer now. Ryan wiped his face with his sleeve, and Jaden stood beside him, unsure what to say. Derek took a slow breath. You two need to understand something. What you did, it was wrong. But I'm not going to pretend I don't understand why you did it. Ryan sniffed. I'll quit if you want me to. No, Derek said. You're not quitting. You're going to make this right. You'll come to the office tomorrow morning, and we'll figure out a legal way to help your family. You got that? Ryan's head snapped up. Wait, you'd really do that? Derek nodded. I've seen what happens when people have to choose between survival and the rules. I don't want that cycle repeating here. Jaden exhaled in relief, muttering, Man, you're not like other bosses. Derek gave him a faint smile. Maybe because I remember what it's like to be desperate. But as the boys left the freezer and Tara locked up for the night, Derek couldn't shake the feeling that someone else had made that anonymous call, and that this story wasn't finished yet. The next morning, Derek sat alone in his office above one of the flagship Harvest Table Grill locations in Scottsdale. He hadn't slept much. His mind replayed everything from the night before, the vials, Ryan's trembling voice, the look on the officer's face. He'd always believed in second chances, but this situation had layers he couldn't ignore. It wasn't just about one boy hiding insulin. Someone called the cops. Someone knew about the freezer and wanted to expose it. He sipped his black coffee, staring at the security feed from the Mesa location on his laptop. The live footage showed employees setting up for the morning shift. Tara was already there, calm but moving slower than usual. Guilt did that to people. He respected her honesty, but part of him still wondered, how long had she really known something was off? A knock on the door snapped him back. Come in. Ryan stepped in quietly, wearing a clean uniform and holding his cap nervously in both hands. Jaden followed a step behind, eyes fixed on the floor. Morning, Derek said. His tone was steady, not cold. Sit down. They did. The silence lingered for a moment before Ryan finally spoke. Sir, I just wanted to say thank you for not firing me. Derek nodded slowly. You don't need to thank me yet. We're not done, Ryan swallowed. I know. Derek leaned back in his chair. I made some calls last night. There's a clinic in Chandler that partners with local businesses for employee healthcare coverage. I can put you and your mom on that list if you're willing to keep working and stay clean about this. Ryan's eyes widened. You'd really do that? Yes, Derek said, but I'm doing it because you told me the truth. That matters, Jaden spoke up quietly. I'm sorry too. I just didn't want him to get in trouble. I know, Derek said, and I believe you. But you boys need to understand that when you hide something like that, it doesn't just risk your job. It risks everyone's. You get one shot to fix it. They both nodded. Derek sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Now, I've got another question. You said nobody else knew about the insulin, right? Ryan hesitated. Right. Derek's gaze sharpened. Then how did the police know? Someone called it in. That's not a coincidence. The boys exchanged a nervous glance. Jaden finally said, I think it was Logan. Who's Logan? Derek asked. The night shift cook, Ryan explained. He saw me go into the freezer a few times. I told him I was organizing boxes for Tara, but I guess he didn't buy it. He's been mad at me since Tara gave me more hours than him. Derek's jaw tightened. So he called the cops thinking he'd catch you doing something illegal? Ryan nodded. Yeah, he's the kind of guy who likes to make trouble when he's bored. That name rang a bell. Logan Perry. Derek remembered him from the HR notes. 3 write-ups in 6 months. Poor attitude, great cook. The kind of employee who did just enough to stay off the termination list. Derek stood up. All right, you two stay put. I'll handle Logan. He drove straight to the Mesa restaurant. Logan was already on shift, flipping burgers and pretending not to see Derek walk in. But everyone else noticed. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Logan, Derek said, stepping behind the counter, we need to talk. Logan smirked. Didn't think I'd see you here again so soon, boss. I heard you made a call yesterday, Derek said flatly. Logan shrugged. Yeah, someone needed to. Thought I was helping. Didn't realize it was just your little charity case. The sarcasm in his voice set Derek off in a way few things could. Charity case? That kid's sister could have died without that medication. Not my problem, Logan said, flipping a patty. You can't have people hiding stuff in freezers. Makes us all look bad. That's funny, Derek shot back, because what really makes us look bad is having employees who think tattling is the same as leadership. Logan turned, face twisted. So what? You're gonna fire me for following the rules? No, Derek said, lowering his voice. I'm firing you for malice. You didn't call because you cared about rules. You called because you wanted to hurt someone. The entire kitchen went silent. Tara looked over from the prep line, frozen mid-chop. Logan laughed dryly. You can't prove that. I don't have to, Derek said. You're done here. Clean out your locker. For the first time, Logan's smirk faltered. You serious? As a heart attack. He turned to Tara. Get HR on the phone. Make it official. Logan muttered something under his breath, ripped off his apron, and stormed out the back door. The sound of it slamming echoed through the kitchen. The moment he was gone, the tension broke. Employees went back to work quietly. Derek stood there for a long moment, rubbing his temple. He wasn't angry anymore, just tired, disappointed. The kind of exhaustion that came from trying to fix a system that never stopped breaking. Tara approached him carefully. You did the right thing, she said softly. Maybe, Derek replied, but the right thing doesn't always feel good. But later that night, when he visited Ryan's home to check on his family, Derek realized that this story, painful as it was about more than work or business. It was about what people are forced to do when the world stops giving them options. It was just after 7 that evening when Derek parked outside the worn-down apartment complex on East Main Street. The air was still warm, the kind that hung heavy after a long Arizona day. The buildings were quiet except for the distant sound of a TV somewhere inside and a couple of kids playing with chalk near the sidewalk. He checked the address twice before knocking on the door marked 3B. It took a few seconds before it opened. A tired-looking woman in her late 30s appeared, her hair pulled back in a bun, eyes weary but kind. Mrs. Soto? Derek asked. Yes, she said, cautious. Can I help you? He gave her a small smile. I'm Derek Lawson. Your son Ryan works for me. Her face changed instantly, eyes widening. Oh my goodness, Mr. Lawson. I'm so sorry if he did something wrong. Please don't fire him. He told me what happened, and I swear... Ma'am, Derek interrupted gently, raising a hand. You don't need to apologize. I'm not here to punish him. I just wanted to check in, and maybe talk about helping. She blinked, unsure if she heard that right. Helping? Yes, ma'am. Ryan told me about your daughter. At that, her eyes softened, but filled with tears, she tried to hold back. Her name's Elena. She's been struggling since they cut her coverage. The insulin costs almost $500 a month now. I pick up extra shifts when I can, but some months... She stopped, covering her mouth. Derek nodded slowly. I understand. I watched my own mother do the same thing years ago. It's not right that people have to choose between medicine and food. She looked at him like she wanted to believe him but didn't dare hope too much. People say things like that all the time, she said quietly, but nobody ever does anything. Derek hesitated, then reached into his pocket and handed her a folded paper. This is a contact for a local program we're sponsoring starting next month. It'll cover medical costs for employees and their immediate families. It's a partnership with a clinic in Chandler. I already spoke to them this morning." She unfolded the paper, reading it twice. "You're serious?" "Completely." Her voice cracked. "You have no idea what this means. I didn't think anyone even noticed what we were going through." Derek smiled faintly. "Your son made sure someone did." At that moment, Ryan came out from a small hallway wearing a t-shirt and gym shorts. When he saw Derek, his eyes went wide. "Sir, you didn't have to come here." "Maybe not," Derek said, "but I wanted to. You and your mom don't owe anyone an explanation, but I needed to see for myself why you did what you did." Ryan looked embarrassed. "I know it was stupid." "No," Derek said. "It was desperate." "There's a difference." Ryan looked at his mom, who smiled through tears. "He's been trying to handle things like his dad would have," she said softly. "We lost him 3 years ago. Since then, it's been just us." Derek nodded, suddenly quiet. "Your dad raised a good man." They talked for a while longer, about Elena's health, about school, about how Ryan wanted to study business someday. Derek listened, really listened, the way he wished more people in power did. When he finally stood to leave, Elena appeared from the hallway, holding a stuffed bear almost as big as her. She had a small insulin patch on her arm, but the brightest eyes Derek had ever seen. "Thank you for helping my mommy," she said shyly. Derek crouched a little to meet her gaze. "You just keep getting better, all right? That's your job." She giggled. "Okay." Outside, the streetlights flickered to life as he walked to his car. He sat there for a long moment before turning the key. Something about that small apartment and that little girl's voice stayed with him. He'd started Harvest Table Grill to build a business. Somewhere along the way, he'd built a family instead, one that stretched farther than he'd ever imagined. The next week, Derek announced a new internal program, Harvest Cares. It offered emergency aid, medical assistance, and community grants for employees in crisis. It wasn't a PR stunt. He refused to even issue a press release. It was personal. And when Tara later told him that employees were talking about the changes, calling it the boss's redemption plan, Derek just smiled. "Redemption's not the point," he said. "It's responsibility." But even after all the praise and gratitude, Derek couldn't forget what sparked it all. 2 scared boys, 1 freezer, and a desperate act of love. Weeks passed, and word spread quietly through every Harvest Table Grill location. Employees started checking in on each other more, asking questions, paying attention. The tone of the place shifted, less like a chain, more like a community. Derek didn't make speeches or hold press conferences. He didn't post about the new healthcare fund or the crisis aid program. Instead, he focused on what mattered, listening, learning, and making sure his people never had to choose between survival and honesty again. One afternoon, he visited the Mesa branch again. Tara was training a new hire while Ryan worked the grill, moving with calm confidence this time. Jaden cracked jokes with customers at the counter. Everything looked normal, but better. When Derek walked in, Tara smiled. "You here for the salmon bowl again, boss?" He laughed. "Yeah, extra avocado, no dressing." Ryan caught sight of him and grinned. "Coming right up, Mr. Lawson." As Derek sat by the window, he realized how much had changed in just a few weeks. Not just for the restaurant, but for him. For years, he'd measured success in profits and growth charts. Now he saw it differently. Success was about people feeling safe enough to tell the truth, even when they were scared. When Ryan brought over his food, Derek asked, "How's your sister doing?" Ryan's smile softened. "Better. The new program covered her medication last week. My mom cried when she found out. I've been saving up too, thinking maybe I could go to community college next year." "That's good," Derek said. "Keep going." "You've got something special, Ryan. Don't lose it." Ryan hesitated, then asked quietly, "Can I tell you something?" "Of course. I was mad at you that night," he admitted, "when you caught us. I thought you'd never understand. But you did. You didn't just help me. You made me want to do better. Nobody's ever done that before." Derek didn't say anything for a moment. He just nodded, his voice steady. "Sometimes people don't need to be punished. They just need to be seen." Ryan smiled. "Thanks, boss." Derek watched him return to the kitchen, that same mix of pride and humility settling in. Outside, families walked past, cars hummed by, the world kept turning. But something inside him had shifted forever. He thought back to that first moment, the overheard whisper, the panic, the confusion, and realized it all led here. A hard lesson wrapped inside a moment of fear. We never really know what battles people are fighting behind the scenes. Sometimes it looks like laziness, dishonesty, or failure. But it's really someone hanging by a thread, trying to survive. Derek stood, left a generous tip, and walked out into the warm Arizona sunlight feeling lighter than he had in years. He didn't just build a restaurant, he built hope, and that's something worth protecting. Because here's the truth. Sometimes doing the right thing isn't about rules or titles. It's about compassion. It's about taking the time to understand before you judge. So if you've ever been in Derek's shoes, faced with a moment that could define who you are, choose empathy. That one choice might not change the world, but it could change someone's. If this story hit home for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remind them that compassion isn't weakness, it's strength. And if you've ever been helped by someone who saw you when nobody else did, pay it forward. That's how we build better people, better communities, and a better world.